Here we have the inside of the Elddis Majestic 275. If we firstly come to the main control panel, you'll see that we have the master button just here to turn the 12 volt on and off. Water pump on and off just here. Water pump needs to be on so we can get water out of the taps, flush the toilet and fill the boiler if it's been drained down. We then have the master button for all of the onboard lights. These can then all be individually turned on and off on their own switches. And then we have awning light on and off. All other information is then given via scrolling just here. So at the moment it's just displaying the time and is letting us know that we have main supply connected to the motorhome. If we now start arrowing across, we will firstly have water level in the fresh tank, water level in the waste tank, user settings. So if I now just press the enter button just here, we have contrast of the screen, button beeps on and off, how quickly before the unit goes back into standby when you're not touching any buttons, water level alarms on or off, main supply lost on or off, and then also alarms for if the vehicle battery is low or the leisure battery is low. And then lastly we have firmware, which is more for the technicians in the workshop, and then just exit back to the main menu. We then have condition of the leisure battery, and then back to the beginning again. To alter the time, just hold the enter button in and then it will begin to flash, and then just use your arrow keys next to it to alter the time. Beneath the main control panel we then have the control panel for the Aldi heating and hot water system. Again, at the moment it's letting us know that we have main supply connected. It's giving us an internal temperature of the motorhome, and this little circle here represents the circulation pump for the heating, so it's just letting us know that it's currently in operation and circulating the ethylene glycol through the radiators. Aldi system completely on or off just here. If I now press menu, it will now bring up its basic functions. So at the top here we have the thermostat for the heating, just plus and minus, just pick whatever temperature you would like it to be inside the motorhome. Beneath it we then have a little picture of a shower head, which is for your hot water. Hot water is currently off. If I now press it, hot water on, and depending on power source it will heat the hot water up anywhere between around about 50-60 degrees. If I press it for a second time, it will now do a boost on the boiler, and this is particularly handy especially if there's going to be more than one of you having a shower in quick succession of each other, or if you just want a longer shower. If you do perform the boost and the heating's running, the heating will turn off as it needs to use that extra power. After heating and hot water we then have power source selection. So at the moment I'm running the system on main supply using 3 kilowatts, and I'm also using gas, so I'm in dual fuel mode. If I now press the little flame, I've now turned the gas off and I'm now solely running on main supply. If we're on a lower amp site we can lower the power consumption to 2 kilowatts or 1 kilowatts to avoid tripping, and then if I press it again I can turn it off. So now, because we haven't got a power source selected, the system is currently doing absolutely nothing. ACC is for the workshop, so you cannot gain access to that particular part. If I now press the little cog, we will go into the settings menu. So we firstly have a moon and a sun, which are the timers. So we have a night timer, on and off, just here. Set the temperature you would like it to be for that period. Set when you want it to begin and whether it's for all days of the week or just individual. And then set when you would like the night timer to finish. With this one here, we can invert the backlight for that period. So this screen here goes to black and the writing goes to white. And we can also, by highlighting this one, tell the boiler that we do not want any hot water produced throughout that period. This is handy, especially if you are only using gas. That way you're not wasting it heating hot water whilst you're asleep. We then have exactly the same again, but for the daytime. Prioritize is what the system prioritizes in using when in dual fuel mode. So at the moment it favours main supply over gas, so it will only use the gas as it's required. If you were on an extremely low amp site, you can flip it on its head so it consumes more gas, less electricity. We then have brightness of the screen. This one is not used on this particular model. And then if we're going to be using timers, it helps if the clock's correct, so we just set it here. If we now arrow down, these ones again are mainly for the workshop, so we cannot gain access to them. We can gain access to this one, and I will show you in a moment. If we now arrow down again, we have this one here, which is antimicrobial. This can only be used if you are using the night timer. What you need to do is highlight it as it is now, set the timer, and then what will happen at about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, the boiler will come on, rapidly heat itself up to kill off any bacteria that may be in the system. Temperature offset for the onboard thermostat. If you don't think it's quite correct, you can just slightly alter it here. High altitude mode. So if you are using the motorhome 1,000 meters or above sea level, you can activate this and it will make the system run more efficiently at that particular air pressure. Button beeps on and off. One, delayed start and stop to the system. Pump settings, just leave it set on thermal. We do not want it on continuous, or otherwise the fluid in the radiators will just continually flow. Factory reset, if there's a problem with the control panel, you can just reset it here. External start, you do have to have an iNet box added if you want to control the heating and the hot water via an app. Language. Service, more for the workshop again, but it does let you know as well what everything's up to. So you'll see at the moment the ethylene glycol is at 70 degrees and the water temperature is at 60. Installed accessories. If we now highlight this one here that says load monitor, and we now go back up, we can now access this one. This one can be extremely handy if you know how many amps the site is that you're on. Pick on here. And now if I actually put it onto 3 kilowatts, it's set to an 8 amp site, so it will limit itself and stop you from tripping. Because it's now an activated function, we can click here and we can turn it up or down or back off again. The actual location for the Aldi boiler is underneath the bench seat just here. So if we now remove the cushions, you will now see the location of the Aldi boiler just here. if we now just pop up this section just here, we can see the gas isolation tap for the boiler itself. It is in the on position and can stay like that, just like any of the other gas isolation taps within the van. I always say if you do smell gas, go to the source and turn the gas bottle off. The actual location for the boiler drain is tucked through here, and you can see the yellow lever just flapped over there. To drain the boiler for winterization, this lever just needs to be flapped so it's pointing directly up, and it will then drop all the water out of the boiler. Do make sure that the water pump has been turned off, or otherwise the water pump will just continually run to try and refill it back up again. So when it comes to refilling the boiler, flap it back over as it is now, fill up the fresh water tank, turn the water pump on, and then the water pump will begin to prime the boiler back up again. You'll need to open your taps. I usually turn them firstly to hot, run them. All the air will then be forced out. Wait until the water is running freely, then turn to the cold and repeat the process. And then once the water is running freely again, close, and then the system will fully reprime. You will also see just down there, there's a little blue dial. This is for the circulation pump. You can turn the circulation pump up and down for the radiators. If we now move to the switches just here, the majority of these are for lights on and off, but this one here controls the fan that can push warm air from the radiator system into the cab area. You'll see you have a vent here and a vent here. If we now move above the fridge freezer, we have the solar panel regulator just in here. The little green light indicates what the solar panel is currently doing, so you'll see it's solid at the moment, letting us know that the leisure battery is fully charged. Whenever it's flashing, it will indicate that it's popping a charge into the batteries. Also in here we have the digital amplifier for the television aerial on the roof, on and off on the bottom just here. Control the boost on the inner dial just here. And then we have the aerial itself. To raise the mast, loosen the collar, and then push up, and then get the aerial into the position that you require, and then lock it back into place. Do not over tighten, as you can split these collars. Currently the aerial is in the horizontal position. We can flip it to vertical by turning the tail just here. And then we have the TV bracket just here, 12 volt supply and main supply just here, and then aerial fly lead just here. Do make sure that the aerial is back down again for travel. The Dometic fridge turns on and on just here. This is an automatic fridge, so as long as you are on A for auto, it will find the best power source it can for you. So because we're currently hooked up to main supply, it's put us onto mains just here. If I now went outside and pulled the mains lead out, it would then automatically attempt to fire itself up onto gas. And as soon as we start the engine, it will then automatically go over to 12 volt maintain to keep itself cold whilst on the move. We can take it out of auto if we want to, so I could now manually put it onto gas, and I can manually put it onto 12 volt maintain. We are going to get a little error appear at the moment because the engine isn't running. This can also happen if it fails to light on gas, or if you don't have main supply. With gas, this also works as a gas reset button, so you can press this and then it will attempt to light itself again, and it does highlight it just here. Temperature control just here. And then we have the large freezer compartment just here. This can be removed. There are clips here and here. With the microwave, do make sure that all the contents are removed for travel. The unit is plugged in just up here. We then have quick start, stop just here, power setting, wait time defrost, rotate for time as well. With the hob and hot plate, the hot plate operates on this one here. Do be careful, there's no light or anything that comes on to let you know it's in operation. With the gas rings, it's then just push in, twist and push the igniter. Beneath it we then have the grill. And then the oven. The oven is also fitted with a light. Beneath the oven you will find the gas isolation tap for it, and also the water pump just located at the back here, and tucked up here as well there is a plug for the hot plate. The leisure batteries are located in the floor area just here. There are two fitted on this motorhome. And the consumer unit is just here. So we have the main strip switches just here. So we have the individual MCBs, main RCD and test button just here. So if something's not working on main supply, just check to see whether or not you've tripped here. We then have the 12 volt fuses just here. So again, if something's not working on 12 volt, just come to see whether or not you've popped a fuse. And then you'll also see just tucked down here, there's a little black switch, and this is for the automatic tank heaters. Currently the switch is in the on position, so if there's water in the fresh or waste tanks and the temperature outside is below about 3-4 degrees, the tank heaters will come on to avoid frost damage. If you just want to completely turn it off, you can just flick the switch just here. Above my head just here we have the PIR sensor for the alarm. Every now and then just press the button just to check that it's all working because it is wireless. We then have the omnivent fan. To operate this, just wind the roof vent up here. Middle button turns the unit on. And then we have arrows out for extraction, arrows in for cooling, variable fan speed by pressing. Do make sure that the vent is back down again for travel. If we now move to the washroom, we have the Thetford toilet just here, open to the cassette just on the lever here, and then push the flush just here. Level indicator here, so it will illuminate when the cassette needs emptying. Do make sure that the flap is closed again, or otherwise the cassette will not come out. If you are trying to remove the cassette from the outside and you feel resistance, do just pop back in here to check that nobody's left this open. Then have the basin and the shower cubicle. Do make sure that the shower screen is fully clipped back for travel. In the wardrobe, we have the header tank for the Aldi heating. All we need to do is just make sure that the fluid level is between the minimum and the maximum. Always take your reading once your heating is up to temperature, as it will expand in the tank. You can top this up if required yourself. Do make sure that you are using the correct Aldi top-up solution. And it's just a matter of removing the cap and topping up. With the beds, we can either have 2 singles or 1 large double bed. If we are going to have the double bed, I always suggest turning the cushions over. So as you can see, I've already pulled one side out and already flipped one of the cushions over. If we now do the same with this side here, and then if we then flip the cushion over, then grab the other 2, you'll then see we've already got a nice large bed. You will see that we have a gap just here. This is because this particular model is built on the slightly wider Alco chassis, so we just need to get the infill just here and then pop it down the edge.